Do you have a dream? Do you even remember your dream? Where are you at in achieving that dream? The funny thing is that we forget that the world is malleable and that we can actually have that kind of agency in the world. Without making this too complicated, I'll tell you that the first thing you need to unlock that path to your destiny is to change your state. You need to change your physical, emotional, your psychological state. You need to get yourself pumped up. You need to get yourself excited and happy and joyous and energetic. And that's something that you can change right now in this instant. That's something like you've seen time and time again. You put on a certain song and you just feel it. You just vibe with it. And all of a sudden, you become unstoppable. And from that state, you might find out what can take that state away from you. What takes that state away from you is the story that you tell yourself. That story that says, I'm embarrassed. Someone just saw me in a pumped up state. Or maybe the story you tell yourself is, oh, wow, I'm really getting ahead of myself. I can't really achieve this. What's gotten into me, right? There's all kinds of limiting stories that you might be telling yourself. They clinch up. They make your body tense. They make you shut off to the progress that you can make. You've seen yourself make. And that story is what's stopping you. And then from the story, it just becomes the day-to-day actions that you're taking. This is the strategy. This is the check boxes that you do. And I'll tell you what, most people start with those actions. Most people start with that strategy. That's fueling the process from the opposite direction. Say you're trying to lose 100 pounds. You say to yourself, I've never lost 100 pounds. You start asking yourself the question, how do I do it? What exactly do I need to do? Especially for something that's really challenging. If you start asking yourself, how do I do it? How do I do it? How do I do it? What makes you think that you should know how to do it? Because you've never done it before. This is a funny little back door that people take where they take something that they've never done before and they start asking themselves, how do I do it? And then when you search inside yourself, you don't get an answer. You don't get an answer that you feel aligned with, that you can believe in, because it's not there, because you haven't done it. You don't have the conviction until you've achieved it, right? So you can't start with that strategy. We've already introduced the concepts. If you walk it back to the story, you can start to change yourself from that story. But there's a complication here. Part of your story is that you have the strategy and you know exactly what to do. But you find yourself still not able to accomplish the tasks that you need to achieve your dreams. What's going on here? Well, just like we said earlier, look at the way that you're talking to yourself throughout the day. Maybe you're trying to lose 100 pounds. It's really hard for you to get the consistency, the motivation. So you need to go and find some ways of being accountable. Maybe you need a personal trainer. Maybe you need to tell people your story so then you kind of get some of their energy back and you kind of can see yourself making the progress. But part of your story is that you've always been an introvert. Part of your story is you don't really like talking to people. So when it comes to that action on your checklist, you're going to go and you're going to say, okay, today I have to talk to a personal trainer. And maybe you're embarrassed about that because you have to lose 100 pounds. And then maybe you're telling yourself you're an introvert. And so, it's like, well, am I really going to make the phone call? Do they have an email option? Do they have a text option? Like, I don't want to get on the phone to do it. And so you see how you start to defeat yourself before you actually take the action. So that story's crucial. You cannot let it get in your way. We can work to change our story, and we've done it before. I've done it before plenty of times in my life, and I've actually done it in a less conscious way. It's kind of just happened to me. I excelled at art and music, and people all around me told me, you're going to be an artist, you're so good. I thought that about myself, but also I adopted a lot of that story because people were telling that to me. I identified with being an artist, and then when I looked out in the world, I said, what would an artist do? And I did those things. And then I went to school for art. But then I switched my major to business and I started being a business person. And I started doing like financial accounting. And then later on, I became a software engineer. So I changed my identity. And each time I changed my identity, I had a different set of values and of needs, like a different rule set for how I was going to engage with the world. But the thing is, like, this just kind of happened to me. And it felt like either I was lucky or it felt like I had to sit around and wait for the pain to accumulate so much that I just couldn't take it anymore and I had to change. And I had to think of a different way to do it. And then I just had to pick a direction and go toward it, right? But we can do this a lot more consciously. So that's going to be the change your story piece. Now, the change your story piece can take a long time. Especially like in our example of the weight loss thing, you kind of already know, you can maybe fathom how to make progress there, how to achieve that change in the story for yourself. Now, one of the most empowering things that you can see right now, today, is that change in state. Your physical, emotional, and psychological state. Think of that just as an engine, right? That engine that makes you go, it makes you go, it makes you go, right? If you've ever lived in a state of like pure love and pure happiness, one of these things about these states is they're all temporary, so it's constantly changing. And just as part of the human experience, we've experienced a depressed state, we've experienced an anxious state, we've experienced an excited state, an unstoppable state, a loving state. Think about a time that you've been loving. Think about a time you've been happy. Think about like what that did for you in whatever you were doing. Like maybe it's at the beginning of a romantic relationship and you're head over heels in love. Like, what would you do for that person? You would do anything. You would stop at nothing. You would make it happen. We think we have to wait around for love to strike us to make something like that happen. But really it's a state of mind. And if you've experienced it, or if you can find someone else who has experienced it and study them, you can get a blueprint for what you have to do to put yourself into that state. If you're in that state of love, that's that state of love where like you're so open and it's free flowing, you move with the wind, you're flexible, you can change. Like if you're trying to change your story, think how easy it would be if you're in that loving, open, like romantic state of mind. Something that a lot of people do is they'll start with the state like they're closed off, and maybe they're frustrated, they are embarrassed or humiliated, they're beating themselves up. You get closed off, your body gets closed off. You start looking out in the world and seeing things through the lens of being closed off, of being resentful, of being humiliated. Just from that, you start to tell yourself the story, to reaffirm the way that you're looking at things. It's like you're describing what you're seeing when you look out there in the world. That's the most basic form of storytelling. And so if you start with the state, you see it through the lens, you start narrating your experience, that crystallizes into a story. And then we've already seen that story can prevent you from making forward progress. Change your lens. Change your lens to something that's excited, that's upbeat. Which state would be most resourceful for you? Is it excited? Is it unstoppable? Is it energetic? Is it loving? Which one can you tap into? And then practice it, solidify it. Wake up every day and look in the mirror. Like move your body in the way that state of mind would express itself. I'm powerful, I'm energetic, I'm excited, I'm happy. It gets into your body. Just try it. Just try it. Try it for 10 minutes. Really put yourself into the state and see if you can stack things on top of each other. If you're saying the words and you're doing the body motions and you're smiling and you put on music that's upbeat, that's happy. Maybe you do this when the sun's shining through the window in the morning. You stack the positive thing after the positive thing after the positive thing, and I promise you're going to feel it. And then once you can feel it, then you know exactly what you can do to practice it. You practice that over and over. You're going to change your state, and from the state, you're going to change your story. And from the story, you can finally take a look at that strategy that you've been working on, and then you can just take action for all of the things that you've identified with that strategy. There's plenty more in this concept. I'm going to pause it here. Thanks for joining me. This is Michael from Dream Speak Path. I hope you have a good day.